A Course in
What?
with Cynthia Morgan.
Hey, course friends. Welcome to A Course in What? I'm Cynthia Morgan, and this is a podcast in which I read and discuss the text of A Course in Miracles. And we are on chapter 2, the separation and the atonement in the text, section 5, the function of the miracle worker. And this is part 3 of a 3-part episode series from episode 17, 18, and 19. We've been reading this section called the function of the miracle worker in section 5. And this is the section within that called A, Special Principles of Miracle Workers. And I'm just going to jump right in again to finishing up this reading. So this section, Special Principles of Miracle Workers, we can see from the title that Jesus wants us to be miracle workers in the world. And perhaps that is the entire reason that he gave us A Course in Miracles. He needs miracle workers. The world needs miracle workers. A Course in Miracles came to us, you may recall, in the mid-1960s because he said at that time to Helen and Bill that the world was basically a mess and that it needed help. So here it seems to us that the help we are to give the world is that of shifting our perception about the world. In other words, extending love. And that's how anything is going to get healed here. All right, so let's begin with paragraph 11, number 1 of the special principle of miracle workers. The miracle abolishes the need for lower order concerns. So what would a lower order concern be? Basically anything that we perceive as a problem outside of ourselves in time and space, this physical reality. And the reason the miracle abolishes that need is because it goes back to the mind where there's only one real need, and that is for healing the belief in separation. 2, since it is an out-of-pattern time interval, the ordinary considerations of time and space do not apply. So the miracle comes from outside of time and space. That's why it's an out-of-pattern time interval. Time and space don't apply because it heals instantaneously, the present, the past, and the future. 3, when you perform a miracle, I will arrange both time and space to adjust it. Now, I think this means that the miracle is in control of time and space. It's the only thing that can control time and space. We talked about that in one of the earlier podcasts about time, that the miracle speeds up time. And in fact, when you go back to what we were talking about before and why A Course in Miracles came when it did, Jesus also said that time was in the process of speeding up. So the miracle can control time and space. And since miracles come from Jesus or from the Holy Spirit in our mind, whom Jesus represents, they're under his control, so to speak, not ours. Paragraph 12. Second principle of miracle workers. A clear distinction between what is created and what is made is essential. So the Course makes the distinction between the words create and make. What is created with God or the Holy Spirit, and that's love. And what is made is everything else. It's made up. It's an illusion. Sentence 2. All forms of healing rest on this fundamental correction in level perception. Now, we've talked about this idea a lot, that level confusion is trying to fix a problem on the physical level only. And healing rests in understanding that correction is of the mind. It's a perceptual problem. Special principle number 13, paragraph 3. Never confuse right and wrong-mindedness. Right-mindedness is a desire to heal. Wrong-mindedness is a desire to stay stuck in the problem. Sentence 2, responding to any form of error with anything except a desire to heal is an expression of this confusion. So responding to anything with anything except right-mindedness is an expression of this confusion. So when you're in your wrong mind, you're obviously believing in the illusion. You're believing in the physical world. You're believing that that person outside of you who's attacking you or whatever, cutting you off in traffic, is actually doing something to you. So you must always respond to others who are coming from fear and separation with love, and that's right-mindedness. Of course, it's easier said than done, but that's why we have this entire practice, and that's why we're reading the course, is to keep us in that right-mindedness where healing lies. Special Principle 14, paragraph 4. The miracle is always a denial of this error and an affirmation of the truth. So the miracle denies the ego. It denies that what that other person believes is true. If someone attacks you in the form of being unloving and you respond with love, you're denying the error of separation in his or her mind. 2, only right-mindedness can correct in a way that has any real effect. So the real effect is the love. That's all that is real, meaning eternal. Or save for us, as the Course puts it. All of those extensions of love, the Course says, are saved for us. Guilt and fear are misperceptions. Sentence 3, pragmatically, what has no real effect has no real existence. Okay, so we just talked about that. 4, its effect then is emptiness. So emptiness, it's the same thing, is nothingness. There's no real existence there. Sentence 5, being without substantial content, it lends itself to projection. Again, projection is the term used to describe the dynamic of the ego. We project our ego thoughts into the world and make effects. The Course usually uses the word results with the Holy Spirit as a result of extension of love, extension of forgiveness, and that's the opposite of projection. When you don't have any substantial content, meaning your mind isn't aligned with the Holy Spirit, you're at danger of projecting the ego. Paragraph 15, Principle 5. The level adjustment power of the miracle induces the right perception of healing. The level adjustment of power of the miracle is the alignment of our minds with a source outside of our ego, and that then induces the right perception for healing. 2, until this has occurred, healing cannot be understood. So it can't be understood because we'll be in our ego. If you don't ask to have your mind healed, how can you heal others? You'll be in your wrong mind, and you won't be able to understand what is needed in that moment. You will have the wrong teacher as your guide. 3, forgiveness is an empty gesture unless it entails correction. So forgiveness in the world is this idea of, I see what bad thing that you just did, but I'm better than you, so I will forgive you. And true forgiveness that Jesus is asking us to perform is forgiveness that says, I forgive you because there's nothing to forgive you for. Your mistaken perception has only made illusions, which aren't real, which can't hurt me ultimately, or ultimately hurt you. Nothing has happened. We're still joined together in love with God. And that's true forgiveness. It looks beyond the world and the body and behavior to the truth. 4, without this, it is essentially judgmental rather than healing. So it's judgmental once again because I'm judging you as doing a bad thing, I'm better than you, etc. Now, this doesn't mean that people don't do bad things or can't be cruel. Of course they can. They're choosing ego and fear as their guide. But what he's asking us to do is to look even beyond that. You can recognize that somebody is in their fear or in asleep to their truth, but you also recognize that on one level, none of this is real, that it's all just a dream. And that's how you heal your mind. And ultimately, that's how you heal the other person's mind as well, which we talked about in the last episode. Paragraph 16, Special Principle 6. Miracle-minded forgiveness is only correction. So there's no judgment in it. It simply corrects the level confusion. 2, it has no element of judgment at all. And we just talked about that. 3, the statement, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, in no way evaluates what they do. So notice here that Jesus says the statement. He doesn't say, when I said. Obviously, this is a reference to the Bible, of course, referring to the crucifixion story. We don't really know what he said and what really happened there. And he's not telling us that he said it. He's simply reinterpreting by saying the statement, what we already believe to be true. That story of crucifixion is so deeply embedded in our collective unconscious. And he's telling us what it really means is that they know not what they do in their minds because they're asleep. It's not an evaluation of their actions, but rather their state of mind. Sentence 4, it is an appeal to God to heal their minds. Okay, so it's an appeal for them to awaken. Sentence 5, there is no reference to the outcome of error. So there's no reference to their actions, which is that they supposedly crucified him, which is a result of the error in their minds of choosing to believe their ego, choosing to believe that separation is real. 6, that does not matter. That, meaning any outcome of the error, doesn't really matter because it's not real. It has no real effects. What matters is the thought that led to the action. He's saying they didn't really do anything to me. Look, I'm still here. It doesn't matter. I'm not my body. Actions can't really hurt me. And the crucifixion is an extreme example. And somewhere in the Course it says that. And Jesus is asking us here that we perform miracles in less extreme situations, like, as I mentioned, when someone cuts us off in traffic or somebody is rude to us. Certainly, those are less extreme situations, and those are the situations for us every day to have that same perception that Jesus supposedly held while being crucified. Paragraph 17, Special Principle 7. The injunction, be of one mind, is the statement for revelation readiness. So be of one mind, again, is a biblical quote, I believe. And you may recall that revelation in A Course in Miracles is a state of oneness with God. And we get glimpses of revelations, as the Course calls it, but we can't sustain that state of peace and love. We get ready for revelations by being in our right mind, by being miracle-minded, by joining our mind with our brother and with God. That's how we be of one mind. 2, my request, do this in remembrance of me, is the appeal for cooperation from miracle workers. So again, do this in remembrance of me is, I believe, what today is symbolized by the communion, taking the cup of wine as his blood and the wafer as his body or whatever. And it's interesting because Christianity is focused on the physical, his blood, his body, etc. But here he's turning the whole crucifixion story upside down, or should I say right side up, and saying, my appeal is that you align your mind with my mind, not doing anything on the level of the body. The body doesn't matter. 3, the two statements are not in the same order of reality. So be of one mind and do this in sentence 2 are working on two different levels. The level of where we think we are in the world, where we do things in this physical world with separate bodies and separate people outside of ourselves, and be of one mind, the level of oneness or truth, where love only exists. So that's why they're not in the same order of reality. Sentence 4, only the latter involves an awareness of time, since to remember is to recall the past in the present. So I believe that when it says recall the past, he's meaning that nothing happened. So in the beginning, nothing happened. We dreamed a dream of separation and it was corrected through that atonement principle. So the separation never occurred. So only the latter, do this, involves time. 5, time is under my direction, but timelessness belongs to God. So miracles are under his direction, meaning what you do while you're asleep or in the dream is under his control or should be under his control rather than choosing the ego, which keeps us stuck in guilt, which is the preserver of time. 6. In time, we exist for and with each other. So in time, we need to help each other. 7. In timelessness, we coexist with God. In timelessness, there's nothing to help. Paragraph 18. Principle 8. You can do much on behalf of your own healing and that of others if, in a situation calling for help, you think of it this way. And I'm just going to read this entire prayer. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent Him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because He who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. I love this prayer so much. It's one of my favorite things in the entire course, and it's something that I use all the time. I use it with clients, meaning that I'll say this prayer in my mind before I have a client that I don't consciously know how to help. Before workshops or lectures, I will say this to myself. I think I probably used to have the whole thing memorized, but these days all I can remember is the first two sentences. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent Him who sent me. And just by recalling those two lines, it aligns my mind with the Holy Spirit. So I get out of my ego. It creates more peace. I relax more because I don't feel like I have to perform in any way. I can step back and trust a power greater than my own conscious mind to take over the situation, to speak through me, to speak for me, to heal the situation. And I know without a doubt that if I say this before whatever it is I'm doing, that the highest outcome is assured me. No matter what that outcome is, it's the highest outcome. So mark this prayer in your book. It can be very helpful to you. In fact, if you say it each day as you arise, you'll find yourself becoming more and more peaceful. And again, it's really a call to just take our rightful place as co-creators with God. It denies the ego. Nowhere in there is there room for ego. I forgot to mention something important, so I'm including it here in a separate audio recorded on my iPhone, and that's why this audio for the next couple of moments is a bit off, so I apologize for that. And the prayer that I just read was a personal prayer meant for Bill Thetford, and this information is actually in Kenneth Wapnick's book, Absence from Felicity, which I read probably 15, 20 years ago, so I don't really remember it. And I've had to grab some excerpts off the internet because I don't even have the book anymore. But Bill was asked by the medical center that he worked for to go to a conference on rehabilitation at Princeton. And he didn't want to go, but he felt that he should go and had to go. And it was January 1966. And Jesus told him, Bill, you can do much on behalf of your own rehabilitation and Helen's, and much more universally if you think of the Princeton meetings in this way. And then out came the prayer. So Jesus had said to Helen, the reason why Bill needs this experience, the experience of going to this conference, is because he needs rehabilitation himself. How often have I answered, quote, help him, unquote, when you asked me to help you? He too has asked for help, and he has been helped whenever he was truly helpful to you. He has also gained to whatever extent he could give. So basically, Jesus is telling Helen and telling Bill and telling us that the way that we help ourselves is to help other people. So that's why he says to Helen, how often have I answered help him when you asked me to help you? And he told Bill the real reason he didn't want to go to this conference. And this conference was, again, on rehabilitating people, not just mentally, but rehabilitating their bodies. He said, quote, "You have a fear of broken bodies because your ego cannot tolerate them. Your ego cannot tolerate ego weakness either, without ambivalence, because it is afraid of its own weakness and the weakness of its chosen home, which is the body. That is really why you recoil from the demands of the dependent and from the sight of a broken body. Your ego is threatened and blocks your natural impulse to help, placing you under the strain of a divided will. You withdraw to allow your ego to recover and to regain strength to be helpful again on a basis limited enough not to threaten your ego, but also too limited to give you joy." And I'll continue with a few more paragraphs. Properly speaking, every mind which is split needs rehabilitation. The medical orientation emphasizes the body, and the vocational orientation stresses the ego. The team approach generally leads more to a confusion than anything else because it is too often misused as an expedient for sharing the ego's dominion with other egos, rather than as a real experiment in cooperation of minds. He goes on to say, "The real limitations on clinical psychology as it is evaluated by its followers at present are not reflected by the attitudes of psychiatrists or medical boards or hospital administrators, even though most of them are sadly in need of rehabilitation themselves. The real handicaps of the clinicians lie in their attitudes to those whom their egos perceive as weakened and damaged." And he goes on to say, "Those with broken bodies are often looked down on by the ego because of its belief that nothing but a perfect body is worthy as its own temple. A mind that recoils from a hurt body is in great need of rehabilitation itself. A damaged brain is also hardly a danger. All symptoms of hurt need true helpfulness, and whenever they are met with this, the mind that so meets them heals itself." And he goes on to say, "Rehabilitation is an attitude of praising God as He Himself knows praise. He offers praise to you, and you must offer it to others." Okay, so when he's saying rehabilitation is an attitude of praising God, obviously he's not talking about the rehabilitation that was going on at the Princeton conference, although that's very important. He was saying the real rehabilitation is an attitude of praising God. That's what needs to be rehabilitated in Bill's mind and in Helen's and in ours. So basically this prayer is for us to use in any situation that we go into, like Bill did, that brings up some discomfort in us. I also I think as I've mentioned somewhere in this recording, that I use it just on a daily basis too, when I'm going into work or working with a particular client that I feel I need help with. It's a way of healing our mind by focusing on healing others through being useful. And you may want to reread that prayer again with this information now because it might shed light on its meaning. Okay, so we'll stop there. And if you would like to stay in touch with me, I always love that. You can find me on Facebook.com/Cynthia Morgan Hypnotherapy. And on Twitter, if you're on Twitter, my Twitter address is Cynthia S. Morgan. And you can email me at acourseinwhat@gmail.com. And thanks again for joining me today. I hope that was helpful to you. It's helpful to me as well. And if you would like to say the summary of A Course in Miracles with me, that would be great. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.